This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
And welcome to the program. I'm Roby Brock. We are glad to have you with us. I have Robert Coon and Tamika Edwards with me. Good to have you both, Talk Business and Politics contributors. We got a lot to talk about this week, so it's been a whirlwind. I think it's been like a hurricane this week with all the political activity. Let's begin with impeachment. The president is acquitted.
Yes.
Not unexpected.
Right.
The charade is over.
But there was a lot of drama still. Mitt Romney and just the way the president reacted to the impeachment acquittal. Tamika, I'll let you go first. Kind of what do you think is like the short-term ramifications of how this impeachment has played out?
Nothing matters. Nothing matters anymore. So I think the short-term ramifications will be what we've seen the president do in his verbal attack on the individuals who were against him. And I think he'll just continue to ramp that up and talk about it every single place. It will be one of his campaign talking points. He had the Washington Post spread out and saying the president was acquitted. And so I think, we'll see. It's like a gun show or a gunfight or something. I don't know what's about to happen.
Brought that headline to the prayer breakfast
the
next
slinger.
morning there. So, Robert, in the short run, what do you think? Kind of how does this play out for R's and D's?
I think in the short run, the president, first of all, is going to ride that vindication train as far as he can ride it, and you're going to hear about it all the time.
Yep.
I think, if you consider November short term, Mitch McConnell's a smart guy. He's a really smart political guy. He says that impeachment is helping Republicans in some of these Senate races. I tend to believe him if that's the case. I think that people are tired of hearing about it, but I think it emboldened a lot of the base and emboldened a lot of independents. And so I think they're going to try to leverage that and make it look like it was a Democratic partisan attack. And with when you add acquittal to it, I think they can package that up.
All right, go ahead.
But there may be some positive impact, and I say positive in the sense of people coming together on a local level and really rallying to see if that will bubble up to a federal level. So we may see much more action on the ground here in the state based on that.
So I consider November long term because in this presidency and in this presidential election cycle, I think the end of the day today is almost long term at times because of what all happens. I'm not sure impeachment is even an issue come November. I think it maybe excites the bases on each side, but I'm not sure that we're even talking about impeachment in November. I just would predict that we will be talking about something else. So let's talk long term. What do you think will be some of the big issues we'll be talking about in November? You still think impeachment's still part of it?
I think it probably will be, just because I think the president's not going to be able to resist the temptation to say I was right and they were wrong. I think if you look at the State of the Union address that he went through, which was probably the most on script I've ever seen him in any forum, he went through this is what this election is going to be about. He went through foreign policy, he went through the economy, he gave specific numbers about different demographics that are benefiting under his presidency. Now, I think fact checkers could have some work to do on whether or not it's all true, but framing it up, he kind of laid out the case of here's everything we've accomplished under my presidency. I think that's kind of what leads you into November.
Yeah. Tamika, do you think disinformation is a problem? Because I can tell you, we fact-checked a couple of Arkansas statistics, and it wasn't really hard. It was 50,000 new jobs created. It was 26,000 new jobs created. About half, but it was pretty easy to fact check. I'm not sure people are paying attention. I mean, I'm not sure people get their news that are fans of the president. I'm not sure they don't just get their news from the president.
That's right. Disinformation is going to be a problem, and it has been a problem. But disinformation is what's driving the narrative because we may have fact checkers out there, but I don't think it really matters. I think that what people believe is what they're going to stick to, and where they want to see a particular elected official, that's where they're standing.
Is that a good place to be, Robert?
I think people ultimately make decisions based on how their life is going, whether they're employed, whether their wages are up, that sort of thing. I think a lot of times we have political figures that take credit for certain things that may or may not be within their control, but it's the way the game's always been played. It's the economy stupid message, and if you are happy with the direction of the economy, you're going to feel like the statistics that are coming out are accurate.
Yeah. Let's talk about Iowa. It was a debacle for the Democrats this past week in Iowa. I mean, there's just no other way to put it. I mean, by the end of the week, they're talking about recanvassing or having a recount. They lost all of the potential momentum for whoever won, which they were counting the numbers 3 different ways, so there could be 3 different winners. Like I'm totally confused, to be honest with you. I'm not even sure Iowa matters anymore. What's your take?
And I think that's the conversation, right? Because shortly thereafter, there were other pundits saying that this re-energizes the conversation that Iowa should not be first and that Iowa does not matter. I think it just, it really lends fuel to the Republicans in a sense of what's going to happen in November 2020. So hopefully things get together and move in a better direction after Iowa. And you saw many of the candidates started shifting their focus to the next one.
Yeah, in New Hampshire there. Republicans got to be licking their chops at the way Iowa went for the Democrats.
Incredibly dysfunctional. You got Mayor Pete out there who ends up coming out on top, gets no bump from it whatsoever because it's 3 days old news that happened after the fact. It's probably the biggest blessing the Biden campaign could come up with after their terrible performance in Iowa, really, is that nobody really knows how bad they did because no one's paying attention anymore. I think long term, I agree with Tamika. I think people are over Iowa. Unless you live there, I think you're over it. I think there's a potential that changes going forward, and it's no longer the first thing out of the gate. Yeah,
we hadn't talked about the Mike Bloomberg factor. How does he kind of benefit from the fact, you mentioned Biden, really didn't get labeled a loser in the Iowa caucus there. New Hampshire's coming up, so he's still good if he doesn't do well there. But Mike Bloomberg's playing this Super Tuesday strategy. We haven't really seen anybody try this one.
The last one I remember really trying that strategy was Rudy Giuliani.
Yeah.
And, it was, I'm not going to participate in Iowa, and I'm not going to participate in New Hampshire, and not really South Carolina, but when Super Tuesday comes in Florida and New York and all these places, I'm the guy. Well, you play it all out, you lose momentum, you lose fundraising, and that strategy doesn't play out. I think Bloomberg's the one that actually doesn't have to worry about keeping the money pump on, and so he can survive that and play that game, and I think he might come out pretty well.
Yeah.
But I think what's contributing to it is that he is focusing on state outreach, and so making sure that he has his campaign set up in various states and local people who are working it, who know folks in the community. So, I think the focus on staying within a particular state, working the local connections, and talking to people on the ground may prove well for him.
Yeah, in Arkansas, we've seen more Mike Bloomberg than we've seen of the other candidates, quite frankly. So, all right, Robert Coon, Tamika Edwards, you can catch them often with us here. Appreciate you very much with your insights.
Glad to be here.
All right, we're back with more right after this.
When homemade is too good to keep at home. Helping Arkansas business do business. Making better happen with First Security.
You'll find us at the end of a lot of long country roads, covering over 60% of the great state of Arkansas. Our 17 electric distribution cooperatives are working day and night to provide reliable, affordable power to over 500,000 homes, farms, and businesses, just like yours. The Electric Cooperatives of Arkansas, your local energy partners.